Twitter's not. Should be a nice little day of baseball here. Get the old run sheet going, and we'll be out promptly at 12:55. Oh, that's cold. All right, Awesemo, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Saturday morning. Take two. I thought we were going to go do this show an hour ago. Silly me. I was still on West Coast time. Wait, no, the math doesn't work for that. I'm all out of sorts, but I'm joined by Chris Pennell today. Hopefully he will be able to bring the knowledge. We had a fun show last week. Chris, our second show together. What's going on, my friend?
And looking forward to it, but you're kind of giving me a scare this morning. You thought I was going to be at 11 a.m. You're adding games that don't even exist on the run sheet. I'm all over the place right now.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. I should have had more coffee. That was the problem. I stayed up super late last night. It was about 12 o'clock when I went to bed. Still managed to wake up at 7 because no sleeping in once you get old. But I will be taking an old guy nap today. That will be fun. In the meantime here, we're getting everybody joining in on the fun. We got about 150 people in. Please do hit that like button. It helps us out. You can also subscribe to the channel. We're about to reach 76,000 subscribers. That is very cool. 80,000 right around the corner. I bet we can get up to that near football season here. Today we're sponsored by PrizePicks. We'll talk about them, but we do have a couple free things that I want to mention today for the tools. So some of our premium tools that are in front of the paywall today include the NBA player projections, the NHL ownership projections, the MLB main slate ownership projections, and then the UFC Pro Play. So we've got a busy day today. MMA show that will be later this afternoon. Coming up right after us at 1 o'clock is going to be the NBA Live Before Lock show. There are 4 games in the NBA today. They're spread out dramatically. There's a 2 o'clock, a 4:30, a 7:30, and a 10. That show after us is going to cover all of the games. We are only going to cover up through the 6 o'clock games. We'll save the 5 later games tonight for the evening Live Before Lock. So you got all sorts of stuff coming to you. And if you want to get behind the paywall and you're not yet signed up at PrizePicks, use the promo code Awesemo. You will get up to a $100 deposit match with your first deposit, as well as 30 free days of Awesemo premium content. And that $100 deposit match, whatever you get for your match, that comes out of your account first into the contest that you enter. There's no playthrough on that one. Well, I guess you have to play through it once before you can withdraw. But hey, $100 plus $90 value at Awesemo. That's a pretty good deal. Chris, we've got 4 games here on our early slate. We then have 5 or potentially 6, depending on your side of choice, for the afternoon slate. Starting off with the early one, we've got the Cleveland Guardians in New York taking on the Yankees. You've got Cal Quantrill going on the hill for the Guardians. Nestor Cortez coming off a dozen strikeout performance in his last outing. He's got a lofty 48.6% strikeout rate early in the season, completely unsustainable. What are you looking at for this game?
Yeah, it's kind of an ugly game for me because the pitchers are good enough where you don't really want to use the bats too much. But then again, you can kind of target these pitchers. Nestor Cortez is definitely my pitcher of choice, especially on the early slate. Looks like he's going to be picking up the most ownership as of right now, and over on the top pitcher stool, best chance to be the top pitcher on the slate. That does come with a good deal of ownership, but I think I'm going to end up eating it. I know Cleveland's not a pushover matchup, even though their entire lineup name value wise doesn't look amazing, but these guys have been hitting very good so far this season. Obviously you have Jose Ramirez, who does crush left-handed pitching, and you have some other guys that have been hitting very well so far. But Nestor Cortez coming off a 12 strikeout performance versus Baltimore, who's a team that's kind of pesky versus left-handed pitching. I can definitely get behind some Nestor here. But as far as the bats go, I think it'd be the Yankees side for me, but I'm not overly confident. And Cal Quantrill is a sub 20% K rate guy, 2 strikeouts in his first 2 starts this year. So I know the Yankees have not been great offensively this year, but they kind of turned it up a little bit yesterday, especially Aaron Judge, and they might be able to pick it up once again today.
Yeah, those are, it's hashtag baseball. We see some players with seemingly in the dumpster. We see others like Cortez that are on top of the world. You've got entire teams in slumps right now. We've had some injury bugs go through some of the teams. And then, of course, we have the inherent variance that is just baseball in and of itself. Makes things a little bit crazy. A lot of things. One of the things we do a lot here at Awesemo for our baseball, get into a little bit of our MLB strategy aspect here. A lot of the things we do here at Awesemo involve creating more than one lineup, especially with baseball. So what you can do, because it's such a highly variant sport, it's okay to mix and match, build 20, 50, 150 lineups. Not a problem. You have little pieces of everything, but it's how you construct those lineups. Are you going with cheap pitchers and the top end stacks? Are you going with contrarian secondary stacks? Are you working at the bottom third of the order? Are you looking at some wraparound stacks? What are you doing with one-offs? What are your constructions going to be on? FanDuel, you usually want to go 4-4 or 4-3 with your stacks, because they weight runs and RBI more than they do proportionally home runs. Whereas on DraftKings, you got to play two pitchers, and we have home runs that are weighted a little more than the stack. So there's different flavors of everything across all of the different sites. And then Yahoo, you can have 6 in your stacks. Generally, I run one 4 or 5 man stack there, some one-offs and higher end pitching where possible, and they have their funky salary algorithm. So there's a lot of different ways you can win at DFS baseball. There's even more ways to lose. We're here to help you guys figure out what suits you the best, because there are, even on the same slate, you can have multiple different strategies that actually pay off. Depending on your style and risk tolerance. Second game that we have, do we have a Nationals starting pitcher yet?
I believe last time I looked, it was Aaron Sanchez.
So let me go see. We got to go look at all the official sources here, because yes, it is Aaron Sanchez. So I think it's going to be his first start. Let me just pull that real quick here, because when I wrote up my articles this morning, he did not have anything. So yes, this will be his first start of the season. Fun note, he actually did pitch for the Giants last year. We know him from his time in Toronto. He had a hot minute there with Houston as well. So that is going to be a bit of a surprise here to see how he performs. Here's a fun note. Came into Dulles Airport Thursday night, saw down at baggage claim someone holding up one of the digital signs, a driver for Jacob Junis, who I was like, oh, interesting. I wonder if the Nationals traded for him. Turns out that he got a call-up, Thursday night, came in from the AAA San Francisco Giants team, where he had I think an 11 ERA or 9 ERA through 11 innings, just horrible. So I went and when I got home and looked and say, oh, did they trade for him? No, it looks like a call-up. So the interesting thing about him yesterday, and then we'll get back to today's slate, I think this is his last stop in the majors, because he was so bad in the minors. It was just like, all right, you get one more chance. He crushed the Nationals yesterday, coming in after their opener. So the point being, Nationals offense, not scary at all. Alex Wood, probably the number one pitcher on this slate. How are you approaching Wood? And now that we have Aaron Sanchez on the mound, do you feel that the Giants hitters are a viable source of power as well?
Yeah, for sure. Alex Wood, I'm doing him right there with Cortez, is one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher on the slate today. He's been at nearly 90 pitches in his first 2 starts, and small sample size, but when guys can go deep into the game to start the season, that's definitely something I'm looking to, especially over if you're playing on FanDuel, where you get those quality start bonuses. But 11 strikeouts in 2 starts, 3.4 xFIP, 26% K rate since last season. Nationals lineup, outside of a few guys here in Juan Soto, Nelson Cruz, and I guess Josh Bell, who I do prefer versus righties anyway. And you have Lane Thomas leading off. Like, this is not an imposing lineup. And if you can work around Soto and Cruz, I think you should kind of, no pun intended, cruise to a pretty solid day today.
Yes, that was, I'll drop the link in chat. Wrote up the free spotlight pitchers and top stacks article today. So that was essentially my exact analysis there, leaning towards Wood as being the top option for this slate. And the Juan Soto, okay, phenomenal talent, going to be a talent for years to come, threat to win the batting title, amazing power, everything you could ask for. Josh Bell, little bit resurgent after coming back from coming over to the Nationals from the Pirates. He's a good switch hitter. And then 42-year-old Nelson Cruz is the 3rd best hitter on the team. Yikes. things fall off a cliff dramatically. Their back half of their order, nobody has any power, literally no power. Victor Robles, Alcides Escobar, Lane Thomas, guys like that. Maikel Franco, okay, I guess he has power, but he's kind of a wind for him. A lot of strikeouts there. The other appealing thing about Wood is for a lefty, he has been phenomenal against right-handed hitters. Normally, right-handed hitters would have the platoon advantage and give lefties fits. Not the case for Alex Wood, who has a 27.7 strikeout rate over the last 2 seasons in 465 lefty-righty matchups. And then he has a 47% ground ball rate. So I think things are lining up nicely for him to have a successful afternoon. Of course, it's baseball, anything can happen, but he is definitely going to be someone that I'm looking to at 9,600 on FanDuel and 9,200 on DraftKings. He would probably be my cash game pitcher on FanDuel. I see someone asked that question. Do you concur with that?
Yeah, I can certainly get behind that, especially because I think there's some pretty good win equity because I do like the Giants stack quite a bit today. So I can definitely get behind Alex Wood today over on FanDuel.
All right, let's go to our next game here. We have, the Giants hitters.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get too far astray, how are you feeling about the Giants hitters in this one? They tend to, of course, perform much better outside of their home stadium. The National Stadium is kind of hitting / pitching neutral until it gets to the really warm July, August months, and then it turns a little more hitter friendly. But how are you feeling about the Giants going against Aaron Sanchez there?
Yeah, they're one of my favorite offenses to target on this slate. I really like the Wrigley Field game because the wind's blowing out, but the Giants are right there with them. It looks like over on the top stacks tool, they're currently coming in with the second best odds to be the top stack on the slate. They are picking up quite a bit of ownership, but their leverage does look pretty neutral, so it doesn't look like they're going to be too overowned. Just looks just about right where it should be. So I'm definitely a big fan of all these guys. The lefties look really good. Aaron Sanchez is not a very good pitcher. It was a small sample size last year, but we're talking about a guy that had around a 5x FIP and a 16% K rate. And these Giants can be really pesky hitters, and the lefties look really good. You have Yastrzemski potentially leading off here. Brandon Belt, very expensive, but a ton of power versus righties. Jock Peterson batting cleanup. I like that price tag a lot. He's only $3,300 over on DK. Brandon Crawford's expensive, but shortstop doesn't look like the greatest position on this slate. So he's looking like a standout to me, especially if you're playing cash games. But the Giants look really good overall, like the entire lineup.
All right. Trivia question. How old do you think Brandon Crawford is?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to go low 30s.
35, the ageless wonder there. Yeah, kind of interesting. He's actually made the 3 different all-star games. It feels like he has literally played forever. Generally plays 140, 150 games a year. Usually has avoided injury issues. So he is someone that he's always around, and we can always luck into a home run with him. He had a career high 24 home runs last year, also a career high 11 stolen bases last year. He was feeling it, I guess, but he is someone that we'll have to see if he makes the lineup. But I think that is the only one we don't have yet here from the early games. Let me just double check that it hasn't come out. Yeah, that's the only one we don't have yet. I'm not sure who they're waiting on. I know Joey Bart, their catcher, has been a little bit dinged up, so he potentially could be the guy that they're waiting on to go through warmups to see how he feels, but we should have that lineup before this show is over. Next game, Colorado Rockies at the Detroit Tigers. We have Miguel Cabrera going for hit number 3,000 today. Rain out yesterday cost them this game. They're doing a day-night doubleheader. Their second game is going to be at 6:40 tonight. That is not on any of the slates that I have seen thus far, but the early one is here. You've got Tariq Skubal, the lefty, going against the Rockies. Of course, Rockies not as exciting when they are away from Coors Field, but they do have some dangerous hitters, at least up at the top of their order there, with Randall Grichuk coming over from Toronto. They've got Chris Bryant, of course, former Cubby there, and then CJ Cron, former Angel. He was with them last year as well. That's a pretty solid heart of the order, and then it falls off after that, similar to the Nationals lineup being bad. That's kind of what happens with the Rockies, even when they're out, especially when they're outside of Coors Field. Seems like the DraftKings algorithm went a little hog wild with Connor Joe at 5,200, Crone at 5,400. Yet Randall Grichuk is 3,500. It's like, did they think some of the people were still or players were still hitting in Coors Field today? I don't know, but I do like Tariq Skubal here. What are you doing with Skubal, and do you like strikeouts his strikeout upside potential against the Rockies here?
Yeah, he's looking like a really solid SP2 option on this slate, because outside of like the Alex Wood, Nestor Cortez, Tariq Skubal range, there's no other pitcher that I can really like get behind where they become a good play for me. So I'm kind of really centered around those three on the DK slate. But Skubal looks good to me. I mean, he's got strikeout upside. He's pretty cheap. He's facing the Rockies outside of Coors Field, so that's always going to be interesting. I know the Rockies have been hitting very, very well so far this year. We got to keep in mind they played a lot of games in Coors so far, so it's definitely going to drop off over the course of the season. And some of these Rockies are really expensive, like you were talking about. I think we were playing Connor Joe in a 3K range in Coors Field. Now he's above 5K in Detroit. Just doesn't make sense to me. CJ Cron's been killing it, so he could certainly give me some concerns, especially Chris Bryant. But I think Skubal will be fine. Like, we have a team total right around below 4 for the Rockies, and I mean, Skubal, while he does give up some fly balls and a little bit of power, he still has a 3.9 xFIP and a 26% K rate. So I'll chase that upside facing the Rockies away from Coors at a pretty fair price point for Skubal.
All right. Looping back here, we do have the Giants lineup in. It's going to be Yastrzemski, Belt, Ruff, Peterson, Crawford, Wilmer Flores, Thairo Estrada, Luis Gonzalez, and Kurt Casale catching. So that one just dropped. So we now have all of our lineups here. Just wanted to circle back on that. Antonio Senzatella here. Senzatella tries to be a ground ball specialist. Like most Rockies pitchers, does okay outside of Coors Field. He looks as a potential SP2 here on DraftKings. I'm not exactly doing cartwheels for him, but over his last 650 at batter space, he has a 50% ground ball rate. That, if he can eat some innings, gives up the Miggy, the solo or the single for the 3,000th hit, doesn't give up many runs. I'm okay with him as a secondary pitcher here. Not excited about the Tigers in this one. Is there any redeeming qualities for either of these guys? It's not I don't want to X out Senzatella by any stretch of my player pool. I don't want to cross off the Tigers, but it's hard to get rallies going against Senzatella, particularly outside of Coors Field, because even if he gets runners on base, so many ground balls lead to the pitcher's best friend, the double play. It kind of quells any potential for the opponent. What is your read on the third of our 4 early games?
Yeah, it's looking like this game might just be like Detroit side, maybe some one-offs like Austin Meadows. He's the most appealing guy for me at $3,900. We know he's got plenty of pop versus right-handed pitching. But man, Senzatella is a really annoying pitcher because he's got a 15% K. He doesn't walk anybody, but man, the ground balls can get very annoying. And outside of Coors Field, like you could make the case for wanting to stack Detroit here because it's such a small slate and there's really not that many options. And Senzatella's numbers aren't going to jump off the page, but I think he's annoying enough where I'll kind of stick to maybe a mini stack here from Detroit or a one-off like Austin Meadows or Robbie Grossman at the top of the order.
All right. One more game to go here. Let me get rid of our extra Detroit Tigers game that I landed in there, which caused a little moment this morning when poor Chris was taking a look at the run sheet. We've got the Pirates at Chicago taking on the Cubbies here. Zach Thompson is going for Pittsburgh. You have Kyle Hendricks on the other side. My notes for this one, I said Zach Thompson, no K in his name, no K in his game. Doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He was over from the Marlins. He had a solid rookie season, but really back of the rotation guy at best. Kyle Hendricks, of course, is always intriguing, especially when he gets to go more than 5 innings. The other intriguing note here, looks like we have up to 20-mile-an-hour sustained breeze / wind out to left field. The thing I want to remind everybody of is the recent renovations. I guess it's about 4 or 5 years ago now, in the Wrigley Field, both with the park and the surrounding buildings. That's changed the impact of the wind. However, once it gets sort of like San Francisco, where once the wind gets above 15 to towards 20 miles an hour, it does have an impact. It's not like the old days where you used to see a pop fly carry out for a home run, but once it gets up to around 20 miles per hour, it's definitely an impact here. Do you let that sway you at all for this game, or do you kind of just say, yeah, it's not like it was once upon a time? It's going to be, okay. It's a tick towards the batters, a little detractor for the pitchers, but we can't X out a pair of pitchers when we only have 8 total to work with on this early slate.
Yeah, I certainly let it sway me, especially when it's some pretty mediocre pitching. If we had someone like Corbin Burns or Max Scherzer on the mound, I definitely would not be like too inclined to make and change my mind. But when you have Zach Thompson, Cal Hendricks, 2 guys that don't really miss too many bats, obviously Cal Hendricks is a better pitcher, but even both of these guys they're not missing many bats, and I can certainly make the case for both of these offenses. Even if the wind wasn't blowing out, I think you could still say the Cubs look like a pretty decent stack today. So even when you add in the win, it just makes it even better. So I definitely like both offenses. I will say Cal Hendricks is picking up some ownership, which it looks like he is a little bit just because he is facing Pittsburgh. I'd rather be on the Pittsburgh bats than I would be getting on Cal Hendricks today. But like you said, you can't cross off the pitchers because it's such a small slate. But if you're going to try to take a stance somewhere, I'd rather be on the Pittsburgh bats.
All right. If you were picking one home run today from the Pittsburgh Pirates, would you go with Dan Vogelbach?
It's certainly an interesting option. I mean, you get the lefty on righty match. For me, it'd be Brian Reynolds, but I mean, Dan Vogelbach, he's not your characteristic leadoff hitter. I mean, he looks like he should be hitting right in the meat of the order, but it's fine. 41 bucks left on righty matchup. He's got some pop versus righties, but he's not the best bat out there.
Yeah, he's not exactly going to be running the bases. Fleet of foot, I guess, is the way to put that. I think he was outright waived from the Mariners. And didn't he have a surprise? I want to say he made the All-Star game randomly somehow. It could be. The pandemic has mucked with my memory a little bit, but then I remember he resurfaced there with the Brewers. Now he's playing a prominent role with the Pirates, who are putting out the cheapest lineup they possibly can. But if he gets an extra at bat to swing from his heels, I'm all in. Right. Sounds like fun for me. The other one I really like looking at the other side is Rafael Ortega, 3,700 leading off on DraftKings. He gets the leadoff job today. So he's someone I think that is going to make a lot of lineups work. And if you cost average him down with the youngster Suzuki there, all of a sudden, you're paying mid 4s for a pair of players, as opposed to, oh my God, 5,800 and 3,700. It's a nice little cost averaging down option there. I think Ian Happ and Jonathan Villar as the switch hitters are excellent. They're both better from the left side of the plate, so this bodes well for them in this matchup. And let's see, we are missing their middle. I'm blanking on his name. Frank Schwindel. He did not make the lineup. I thought he would. He's someone that we want to keep an eye on. He's not exactly a household name, but over his last 400 at bats, he does have over a 200 ISO in righty situations. So just someone to keep an eye on. He's not in the lineup today, but that's one of those. File that away for later, because even though you're like, who is this guy? He doesn't get a lot of buzz or props around him. He's actually really good by the numbers. So someone to keep an eye on. Anything else you want to point out here? Maybe Patrick Wisdom, Jason Hayward, I guess. Any thoughts here on the Cubbies that I didn't touch on?
Yeah, I mean, looking at Patrick Wisdom, he'll strike out about half the time, it seems like. Versus righty is about a 40% K rate, but at the same time, talking about a guy in 284 plate appearances since last season, he's got nearly a 300 ISO versus right-handed pitching. So it never feels great playing a guy that strikes out that much, but Zach Thompson's not a guy that's going to miss too many bats. This is a pretty good matchup for him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a homer.
All right. We are about to head into the afternoon slate of games. We've got, about 6 of them here, but let's talk PrizePicks real quick. They are the sponsor of the show. As I mentioned at the top of the hour here, that if you use the promo code Awesemo, you will get a $100 deposit match, up to $100, I should say. You put in 20, they'll match you with 20. You put in 100, they'll give you 100. You put in 200, they're going to give you 100 because it caps out at $100. But you also get 30 free days of Awesemo premium content for using the Awesemo promo code. That is a pretty good deal. How does it work? Well, there are daily prop-based contests there. So there's no sharks, there's no optimizers, there's no mass multi-entries. It's you against their player props. You build out a card of 2, 3, 4, or 5 questions. A 5-player lineup can net you up to 10x your entry fee. You can use cross sport wagers. Looking at where they are right now, they currently have NBA, MLB, PGA, soccer, boxing, NHL, League of Legends, whatever the heck VAL is, Valorant, I don't know, it's a video game, USFL, NCAA baseball, MMA, CSGO, Xfinity racing, disc golf. Who the hell has anything with disc golf? I don't know, but PrizePicks definitely does. So you can use your knowledge here to go cross sports bets. You can also do same game cards. The only rules is you have to pick players from more than one team, and you can't use a player on more than one question. So like if we look today at, let's say Joel Embiid, let's see, is he on their list? So he has like 7 different questions or player props up there that you can choose from. You only get to choose one per card. So if you said, I want to take the 50 fantasy points or more, and I think he's going to score more than 30 points, you need to build out 2 cards. So that's really the only thing that we have going there that could be an issue. So Chris, we'll let you pull out your projections here. I'm going to ask you a couple pitchers, and we'll do some strikeout props. So we both like Alex Wood. He is at 5 strikeouts today. If you, so the other important thing to note is if you have a tie on PrizePicks, that question is just removed from your card. It doesn't invalidate the whole card as long as you still have at least 2 questions there. So if we had Alex Wood and 2 other questions and he had 5 strikeouts, they would just take that out. Doesn't invalidate your card. It just drops you down to the next level. So that's another nice thing that PrizePicks has. And if your player does not play for whatever reason, it's just removed from the card. It doesn't knock out your whole card. So Alex Wood, I'm going to say your model says 5.7 strikeouts.
It's bouncing around the 5.5 to 6 range. And you said
look at that. The old guy for the win.
We'll give you that. I mean, it's a close one, but I think I'd take the over. I mean, he's getting around 90 pitches per game. He's facing a Nationals lineup that, while they're not a huge strikeout team, I mean, Alex Wood is good enough with that around 26, 27% K rate where he can get the job done over 90, 100 pitches.
All right. And we both were not thrilled with Zach Thompson. I besmirched his name. Parents, if you name your kid Zach and he's going to play baseball, K. It's got to be Zach with a K. Zach with an H, not so good. 3.5 strikeouts. Ooh, feels almost like a stay away there. What does your model say for us?
Stay away from them. We're talking like upper to mid 3s for me. I mean, the Cubs, they do have some guys that will strike out quite a bit. The only thing I will say is that there's a decent chance that Thompson does not make it very deep into this game and he gets hammered early on. So he could get the quick hook. And in that case, the under does look appealing. But for me, that's a bit of a stay away.
All right. And then Nestor Cortez, 12 strikeouts in his last start. Does he have any left for today? Or does he have to wait till the reserves fill up again? 5.5. Are you going over, under, or is that a stay away?
I'd almost be tempted to take the under just because the Guardians don't really strike out. I'm not sure if I'm just being biased because I'm a big Cleveland fan, so maybe I'm not the right person to ask about this question. But man, his strikeout rate's been really nice. We're talking close to 30%. I believe currently I have him sitting around 5.5 to 6, so it's not like there's a huge edge here. I would lean towards stay away, but honestly, I could see him sitting around 5, which does give me some concerns versus Cleveland.
All right, let's move on to our afternoon action here. I want to remind you guys that if you want to get behind the paywall here with the Awesemo premium content, you can do so with a weekly pass for just $29.95. That includes all premium content for all sports, player projections, ownership, top golfers, lineup builder, everything that we have, top stacks, top NHL stacks, NASCAR. Oh, we've got USFL as well. We'll see how long that league lasts. But in the meantime, we have USFL projections available as well as part of the premium package. You just want to get into baseball, we do have the weekly express package for as low as $4.95. You can check that out. It also gives you the Slack channel, or pardon me, the Discord access. So that's a lot of fun. And then, of course, we have partnered with Fantasy Cruncher. That is a separate add-on that you can add to any subscription that we have here. So that is also very helpful. All right, on to the afternoon games here. Milwaukee Brewers at Philadelphia Phillies. Adrian Hauser, Zach Wheeler on the mound. A couple guys that were really good last year. A little bit of a slow start for Wheeler thus far. How are you feeling about the pitching as we head into our afternoon action?
This is definitely an interesting game because I could see both these pitchers dealing, but at the same time, they have not been sharp to start the year, especially Zach Wheeler. I mean, last season, Wheeler was incredible. You could start him just about every single time, and it looked pretty good. I mean, last season, talking about a sub-3 xFIP, a K rate at nearly 30%, and he always worked deep into games around 100 pitches per game. So far this year, I believe he's yet to get over 70 pitches, and he just has not looked sharp whatsoever. There are some strikeouts in this Milwaukee Brewers lineup. So I definitely can go back to the well here, $9,200. It seems cheap for a guy that, if you look at a larger sample size, was absolutely excellent. But I do have my concerns with how he's looked so far this year. And as far as Adrian Hauser goes, it's not like he has a huge strikeout rate. We're talking about a guy, solid 4.3 xFIP, but a 17% K rate is not going to give me a ton to be too excited about. And he's always had some pretty severe splits when it comes to righties and lefties. So one thing I've always done is I almost want to cross out righties versus Hauser. The lefties always have looked pretty good, but and he can be pretty tough on the righties.
All right, here I see we got a little angry people in chat. We've got Bill Wallace. He's calling for the Wambulance right now. Doesn't like ad reads. Hey, it's a free show. Go ahead and turn us off. I'm good with that. Or hey, get behind the paywall here. Many ways we've offered to do it. Join in that Fred Van Elite fan club that I've got posted today. Finish first with that, with an Awesemo avatar. We'll get you 30 free days of Awesemo premium content. You can also get in the Awesemo Hall of Fame, finish top 3 in any contest of 5,000 people or more. That's first, second, or third, no ties. And you can get 30 free days of Awesemo premium content as well. Don't finish top 3, but still have a big win. Send us something to Awesemo HOF on Twitter, and you'll get to see your name and lights here on Awesemo. It's a lot of fun here. So, hey, I'm going to go find some more ad reads that aren't scheduled for this show just so I can tell Bill about all the cool stuff we have at Awesemo. And if you are behind the paywall, you can just turn us off and use all the great tools here because you don't need to, dig through all the free stuff here. You can get the good stuff anytime you want on demand. It's called the subscription. May want to check it out. All right. Philadelphia, the Brewers. Would you go for a contrarian stack here with either of these teams? Because it looks like these pitchers are picking up a little bit of interest here before we get on to the rest of our games.
I mean, from how they performed this year, I could certainly see someone making the case for some of these bats here. I mean, if you're going to use the Phillies bats, I prefer the lefties. So obviously guys like Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber are going to stand out the most. It's not like we have a lefty heavy lineup here, but 4.4 runs for the Phillies, 3.7 runs for the Brewers. If I was going to stack against anybody, I'd rather go up against Adrian Hauser because at some point Zach Wheeler is going to turn it around. We're talking about a very small sample size. So for me, the Phillies bats, plus we have plenty of name value here with plenty of upside, but they have not performed expectations so far. But again, we're dealing with small sample size. And I think over the course of the season, these Phillies bats are going to be one of the better offenses in the league.
Okay, let's head on over to talk about better offenses in the league. The White Sox, holy cow, that is a loaded offense. The Twins, Brandon Buxton, I thought he was going to be hurt, yet magically he's healthy. He's never healthy, yet all of a sudden he's back. I'm not sure how that's happening, but these two squads here have they're going to be giving their opponents fits all season. There's no doubt about that. We've got Vince Velasquez on the mound here for Chicago. We're still waiting on that Chicago White Sox lineup. They're going against Dylan Bundy. Bundy having a nice start to this season. He seemed to surprisingly do better getting out of the American League East. But he is someone that can be a little hit or miss. A lot of times were concerned when he was with Baltimore as to who his catcher was going to be because he seemed to have certain preferences there for his fantasy outcomes. But I think he's someone you can consider as an SP2 today. 7,000 on DraftKings. We got to play 2 of them here. It is going to be a tough lineup there going against the White Sox. Vince Velasquez on the other side. He's a one-trick pony, throws a lot of fastballs, gets hit incredibly hard, and can give up the crooked numbers in a hurry. I think pretty much any of the top 6 Twins are in play today. How are you approaching this game? Any thought to either of the pitchers as an SP2, or do you just want to talk offense here?
I'd rather talk offense than any of these pitchers. But by the way, we just got the White Sox lineup. But both of these pitchers,
it's like I speak these things into existence.
Right.
Jeez. Okay, there we go. White Sox lineup confirmed. Let me quickly see what that is. So we've got Anderson, Vaughn, Abreu, Yasmani Grandal, Eloy Jimenez, Adam Engel, Luis Garcia, Reese McGuire, and Jacob Berger. A couple creative players at the bottom of the lineup, at the top 7, all notable hitters here. Back to you, Chris.
Yeah, both these pitchers can be very hit or miss. If I had to pick one, it'd probably be Dylan Bundy. But I mean, looking at Vince Velasquez, got up to close to 90 pitches in his last start, but man, he is very up or down, and it's more often down than not. He's got a 5x FIB, 23% K rate, which always keeps him somewhat in play for DFS purposes. And I'll never forget that game. I forget how many years ago, but I believe he had like 16 strikeouts in his one start when he was with Philly. It was absolutely incredible, but 12% walk rate is always going to get him in trouble. And he also gave up around a 250 ISO. So there is definitely some concerns to be had. And this Twins lineup, I mean, they got some pop here. We have Byron Buxton, we have Carlos Correa, Jorge Polanco, Max Kepler, Miguel Sano. I mean, Miguel Sano will strike out about half the time, but there's definitely some power in this lineup. They have a team total of 4.5. Definitely can get on board with the Twins. Dylan Bundy, yeah, decent start to the season so far. If you're looking at the overall numbers since last season, 4.5 xFIP, 21% K rate, about 200 ISO given up. So it's not like he's incredible or anything, but we know he's got the upside to be good. And this White Sox lineup's got a decently low implied team total for how many good bats they have. So I think Bundy is somewhat interesting on as far as the pitchers go in this slate. There's not a ton of great pitching options. I mean, you have Montas, Manoah, and Zach Wheeler, but outside of that, I think Bundy's an interesting SP2.
All right, we're going to continue moving along here. 20 minutes till our show wraps up. We're going to get out of here promptly at 5 before the hour, because you're going to get the NBA Live Before Lock coming after us. You will get Nerd Ask Greg Ehrenberg, and Matt LaMarca, and you're going to get a bonus show from them, an extra 30 minutes there. Some people were asking who is on the night Live Before Lock for baseball. That will be T. McBee, Terry McBride, joined by your pal and mine, Gundacker. So good show to be had there. And then in between, we're going to have the MMA Live Before Lock featuring, of course, Pete the Heat Rogers. On to the next game here. Ranger Suarez and his lack of strikeouts going against Trevor Rogers and his lack of strikeouts. I will say I am guaranteeing a good game from Trevor Rogers today. I dropped him off not only 1, but 2 season-long teams today because I did not want to play him in this matchup. And I did not like, I can't remember who his next one was projected against. So, of course, whenever I do that, Chris, the pitchers always have a good game. Do you think that is a valid way to analyze things? Because I certainly don't, but this is going to bite me in the butt, I'm sure. What do you like with either pitcher here? I want to say these guys are the kind of pitchers that don't get blown up, but they don't get a lot of strikeouts. Kind of a middling fare here. What is your read on this?
Mac, you're scaring me with the Ranger Suarez talk because he pitched yesterday.
What? Oh, I
thought you were messing with me again.
No, I pulled that from Fangraphs. Sometimes Fangraphs reporting is not the best. Today's pitcher is Zach Wheeler. Thank you. That will be Zach Wheeler.
Yes. And we did cover that game. So
God damn, what have I mucked up here?
I believe we're on to Oakland and Texas.
Thank you. God bless it. There is 2 Phillies games here. You know what? All right, we'll take this out in post. Now, chat, now you can make fun of me. I was unflappable before. I'm feeling a little flapped right now. So tomatoes, lettuce, rotten fruit, rotten vegetables, send it my way. I deserve it. All right, Texas at Oakland. Martin Perez and his high ground ball rate going against Frankie Montas, everyone's favorite pitcher in this slate here. Texas retooled their lineup, has a lot more offense than it did last season. Oakland traded away everybody that wasn't nailed down at this point, yet still is going to put their best power hitting lineup out at all costs. They're getting it done with smoke and mirrors. Save me from myself, Chris, here. Let's talk some pitching. Yeah, the pitching looks good on one side of this game. That's going to be Frankie Montas for me. He's going to be pretty high owned, but it's for a good reason. He's cheap again. He was cheap in his last start versus Baltimore, and he did pretty well. And I could see him doing decently well once again. The Rangers have a team total around 3.5. I think
I think it's at 3.4 as of right now. The Rangers, they have a good lineup these days. I mean, Brad Miller leading off, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Mitch Garver, Nate Lowe, who I believe went deep last night, Adolis Garcia. Like, it's not a pushover matchup anymore, but this is a pitcher-friendly park in Oakland. Montas is a good pitcher. Looking at his strikeout rate since 2021, we're talking about 3.5 xFIP, 26.5% K rate, around 90 pitches in his first 2 games. I could see another very solid start once again for him.
All right. When looking at Montas today, how would you compare him to Alek Manoah? Manoah's a little more expensive on 2 of the 3 sites. He has on paper a tougher matchup going against Houston here, but he's lining up as the perfect pivot away from Montas. If you were comparing the 2 of those guys directly and knowing their levels of popularity today, where would you land in tournaments?
As far as tournaments go, Alek Manoah is on DraftKings. He's about $2,000 more expensive. So I do think he's a decent pivot. Now you have to get a little bit different with your lineup, and that matchup versus Houston. While the Rangers do have a decent lineup, the Houston Astros are a very scary imposing lineup. Not a lot of people like to attack the Astros. So I think Manoah is definitely a very interesting tournament option. It was kind of similar to when he faced the Yankees. I believe it was his first start of the year, where not a lot of people wanted to go with Manoah because he was expensive compared to the other pitchers on the slate, and the matchup didn't look that great. But at the same time, Manoah is a fantastic pitcher. I know he's young, but a 4x FIP, a 28% K rate. If you want to get off chalky Montas, Manoah looks like a very solid option as well.
And this is where we're kind of doing dual analysis here, because this is a great leverage spot in tournaments. And I think this could kind of be the make or break one. And as we know, pitchers, about a third of their starts, they're going to be awesome. They're going to have it. They're going to be locating. Everything's going to go great. About a third of their starts, they're going to suck. They're not going to have it. They're going to leave balls hanging over the plate. It's just going to be a disaster. It's what they do with that middle third that makes you an ace or makes you a back of the rotation option. Both Montas and Manoah have the ability to be a staff ace here. But, we start to dig into the lineups and are they, tougher than they seem on paper? Are they easier than they seem? The one thing to look at here with Houston is they are without Jose Altuve. He is on the disabled or the injured list, I believe a sore hamstring. So you've got a youngster, Jeremy Pena, is going to be leading off. He has just been hitting everything on the screws right now. He still has a lot to prove at the major league level, and Manoah is a very good pitcher. So that is, I am comfortable with Manoah in that particular matchup. I'm okay with Brantley. He's a contact guy, not a lot of power, but nothing too crazy, not going to strike out a ton. Bregman, Yordan Alvarez, okay, those guys are a little bit scary. Yuli Gurriel, didn't he win the batting title last year? He's kind of a meh player. Everything fell into place for him. Kyle Tucker's a little bit scary. And then you got Nico Goodrum, Jose Siri, and Martin Maldonado. Those guys have about an ISO that's 100 points higher than Chris and my ISOs, which means they are not going to hit very hard. 0 compared to about 100. Nothing scary there. That's what has me looking at Manoah as a leverage position here. Sometimes, you gotta take some chances here. You got to do some things that make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. This is one of those spots, but once you look at the underlying metrics and the underlying information, it seems like a savvy pivot move here. This is where we get into I'm not, doesn't mean I'm not going to play Montas, but I would like to be above the field on Manoah. And I think that's definitely a way to differentiate our lineups, particularly as Chris mentioned on DraftKings, where Manoah costs $1,800 more. We're going to have to downgrade a bat or 2, which inherently is just going to give us an entirely different lineup than everybody else. So it's baseball. It's early. We've got another, I think it's 187 or 189 more days of regular season. So we're going to be here for a while, but just a reminder as you dust those things off, as we talk a little bit of strategy on the MLB Strategy Show. So since we've sort of combined these 2 games, do you have any hitters that stand out for you, particularly from the Blue Jays going against Jose Urquidy, who is like the most perfectly nondescript average pitcher?
Yeah, looking at Urquidy's numbers, I mean, pretty average, 20% K rate, about 70 pitches in both starts. The Blue Jays, we know, obviously have a very imposing lineup. George Springer at the top of the order, Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero, who's arguably the best hitter in baseball now. Lourdes Gurriel, Zach Collins. his price gone way up. I believe he was in the 2K range. Now we're looking at the mid 3Ks. That's not as appealing as it once was. Matt Chapman, Alejandro Kirk, Graham Tapia, and Espinal. I mean, the team total is not incredibly high for them. It's sitting around 4.5, and these guys are very expensive. So it's not the easiest lineup to get to. And if you are using Manoah in a lot of lineups, you might not be able to get to a lot of Blue Jays. But if you're looking for some value, since we combine both these games, the Oakland A's, while they don't have any name value, it's not the worst stack out there. I mean, we have a team total close to 4, which I know is not great. But when you're talking about the lineup, $3,600 for Elvis Andrus, $3,000 for Sheldon Neuse. Sean Murphy's the one expensive guy here. You have their cleanup hitter, Bethancourt, $2,000. Like, if you're looking for value, trying to get to a lot of Manoah, I don't hate mixing in some A's, maybe as a mini stack, just to try to be able to get you some more expensive bats mixed in with some more expensive pitching.
All right. True or false? Yulieski and Lourdes Gurriel are brothers.
I believe so, right?
It is true. Did you know that Yuli Gurriel is 37?
I did not.
And Lourdes is 28. A little bit of an age gap there. A little bit of an age gap, leaning towards Lourdes at this point in their careers. But yeah, I didn't realize that Yuli was 37. I thought he was like 34. So
yeah.
Interesting thing. I was like, God, he's been around for a long time, and I know he had a reasonable career for the Cuban national team prior to coming over to the show a while back now. But wow, that's a long career that he has had thus far. All right, so that sort of took care of those two games. Got 9 minutes left. We got two more games. The FanDuel is including the 6 o'clock Boston Red Sox at Tampa Bay game on their slate. DraftKings is not. So the St. Louis Cardinals at Cincinnati Reds will be our last game in common for those two slates. I got some notes here about Tyler Mahle, because I don't know what's going on with him. So my notes say early this season has been pretty rough for Mahle. He's been hammered in his last two starts. This will be his fourth start of the season. He's allowed 11 earned runs in just 7 and 2/3 innings against the Dodgers and the Guardians. On the positive side, he's getting a ton of strikeouts. The negative side, once he gets through the lineup once, he starts to get his ass kicked. Is this conditioning? Is he somehow, I don't know that tipping his pitch is the right word, but all of a sudden is his throwing motion, et cetera, being unlocked magically the second time through the lineup, or is this just happenstance? We don't know, but it's pretty scary to see a talented pitcher at 27 fall off the shelf this quickly. Hopefully it's just noise. Hopefully it's just variance. The other thing that's kind of concerning is he has allowed a 218 isolated power over his last 400 righty matchups. That is like 30% in the opposite direction of what we would expect from someone like Mahle, similar to what I mentioned with Alex Wood. The platoon advantage, righties do better against lefties, not as good against same-handed pitchers. Same thing goes for lefties versus lefties. But wow, that is a surprising number there for Mahle. The other thing to keep in mind, St. Louis absolutely loaded with right-handed pitchers for right-handed hitters that have power against same-handed pitching. Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Tyler O'Neill, they're awesome against righties. They're awesome against lefties. That's the trio to target. Depending, I don't know if we had that lineup yet, but Paul DeYoung, Harrison Bader, there's some cheap options at the bottom of the lineup. They're batting 8th and 7th respectively. I'm not surprisingly as excited by Corey Dickerson, even though it's a lefty-righty matchup. Mahle has been better against lefties. Dickerson cheap, but Dickerson has been floating around for a while now since he left the cozy confines of Coors Field, or I guess the thin air of Coors Field. Lars Nootbaar, fun to say his name. I'm not really excited about him. I don't want anything to do with Mahle, but I want a lot of these righties in the Redbirds lineup here. What's your read on this? And then Dakota Hudson, 4,500. We have to at least mention that on DraftKings because that unlocks everything else for us.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting game because I think at the same time when you can make a case for the Cardinals bats, which you've made certainly great cases for him because Tyler Mahle, whatever you want to call him, he gives up a ton of power, but just have strikeout upside. And that's the thing that does make him appealing for DFS purposes. We're talking about a guy with a 3.7 xFIP and close to a 28% K rate. Has the season been great so far? Not really. He's had some tough matchups versus the Dodgers and Cleveland because they've been hitting very well to start this season. And we're also in Great American Small Park. It's definitely caters towards hitters, which does give me some concerns. But at the same time, the Cardinals, they're a much better team versus lefties, but these bats are still excellent versus righties. They just don't really strike out too much is the problem. And like you said, Mahle does struggle with right-handed bats at times. I mean, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, I mean, two obvious big power bats there in the small ballpark can definitely give me some concerns. Our team total is not super high at 4.3, and they are kind of expensive, so it's definitely not my favorite stack. But as far as Dakota Hudson goes, he is basically free and they're begging us to play him. And if you want to go with Dakota Hudson at $4,500, you can pretty much throw in whatever stack you want. And even if you put in an Alek Manoah and the Reds, I wouldn't say they're a super imposing lineup. You have Tyler Naquin at the top of the order. He is good versus righties. Then you have Brandon Drury, Tommy Pham, Joey Votto, who does crush right-handed pitching, Kyle Farmer, Nick Senzo, Moran, Lopez, Garcia. It's not a very good lineup. So if you're just looking for the cheap value pitcher on the slate, Dakota Hudson does not need to do much to hit value. He hasn't done much so far this year, around 70 pitches per game, but for the price, I don't think you can complain too much, but you just have a sub 20% K rate and a 4x FIP. So I mean, you kind of get what you're paying for by just seem a bit underpriced.
All right, last game. Again, this is only on the FanDuel slate. We've got Boston in Tampa Bay. Got a bullpen game here. You've got JP Freer reason, who will be starting, using air quotes there, for Tampa Bay. This will be his 7th appearance. He has thrown on, in his last outing, he threw 28 pitches. I expect him to be in that vicinity. That is 1, maybe 2 innings. On the other side, you have Garrett Whitlock, 25-year-old, going against Tampa Bay here. He has, let's see, averaged in his appearances starting from beginning of the season, 38 pitches, 39 pitches, 30 pitches, 12 pitches. So I would expect to see him go for about 2 innings as well. Kind of at that point, you got to cross these guys out of your player pool, particularly on FanDuel, where the quality start is a scoring metric that they utilize. You got to go 6 innings and allow 3 or fewer runs to get a quality start. They're not even going to combine. These guys aren't going to get a quality start. So you want to cross them out from there. But bullpen game means a lot of fresh arms coming in. The managers can sort of mix and match depending on who's coming up in the opposing lineup. Of course, as a reliever, you still have to face a 3-batter minimum here. But if you have a whole bunch of fresh arms coming through, that could lower the offense. Plus, this one's in Tropicana Field. FanDuel only. Anything standing out for you in this one?
No, I wish they just did what DraftKings did, left them off the slate, because this game just kind of sucks, to put it on. Just to be honest, like, no, don't like the pitchers, don't like the bats, hate the field that they're in. There's nothing to like.
Yeah, the frustrating thing is they leave off good games when they're on this slate, and then they're reaching up and pulling in this. So it's like, really, guys, really, you got to do that. I see Cody likes the eyebrows. The eyebrows, yeah, they're a mind of their own there. So my wife hates when I do, when I move the eyebrows independently. Tell me more about that one, right? She's like, I hate when you do that. So there we go. I'll have to do a screenshot of me. That should be everybody's screensaver right there. All righty. That was our fun. We've got a couple moments here to wrap up a few things. Got a bunch of shows coming after us. Starting at 1 o'clock, we're going to have the NBA Live Before Lock show. That will be Greg and Matt LaMarca. And then we have the MMA Live Before Lock show featuring Pete the Heat Rogers. And then tonight we're going to have Terry T. McBee as well as Gundacker for the MLB Live Before Lock. MLB slate locks at 7:20 tonight. There's only one 7 o'clock game. The rest of them are 8 o'clock or later. Then we've got wall-to-wall basketball today at all times with the slates lock, the main slate locking at 2 o'clock. So that will be a lot of fun. You can follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Pennell 16, I believe. Look at that. Like your mind like a steel trap that's rusted shut. You can find me at EMac DFS. Of course, it is Awesemo_COM. Thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. Use the promo code Awesemo to get up to a $100 deposit match with your first deposit on PrizePicks. You also get 30 free days of Awesemo premium content by using the promo code Awesemo. With that, gamers, good luck.